Okay, I've just finished reading J.M. Coates's 2007 novel, Diary of a Bad Year. It's a simple premise, story of a septuagenarian writer, a South African exile living in Australia. And there are three characters in the book: the writer himself and his two neighbours, a young couple. The writer is contracted to write a short book of opinions, of small opinion pieces. It's part of an edited volume of lots of writers, and he's invited to give his opinion on sort of rather large philosophical issues, and philosophical musings and politics and so forth. And in order to help him to edit, he employs the young woman, his neighbour, who he finds very attractive, and of course that's really the reason why he employs her, not for any editing skill. And what the novel is about is this curious kind of ménage à trois that is a ménage à trois, but also isn't a ménage à trois, because it isn't really a love triangle that's going on. And what's particularly interesting about the book is that it's divided into three particular voices. So if you open any page, I don't know if you can see that, but you have, each page is divided into three sections. At the top you have the writer's writings of the book he's about to submit to the publishers. So these are his kind of philosophical musings, on political musings, everything on things like the meaning of democracy and torture, right the way to musing about Tony Blair and the Iraq War and so on and so forth. So it's a very sort of big political pictures. Then you have the second section, which is the writer's personal diary and his reflections on his growing relationship with the young woman. And then the third bit is actually the young woman's diary and her reflections on her engagement with both the writer and her partner, who is a rather objectionable sort of neocon who works in the financial industry. And what is interesting is that these three stories not only interlace, but they kind of sometimes run on across pages and across chapters, and you spend a lot of time trying to work out how you ought to be reading it. Do you read down one at a time and then go like that, or do you read across the page and across the second story, then the third story, or perhaps you go right the way across a chapter at a time? Well, there's different ways you can read it, and Coates is kind of playing a game with you in a sense, and inviting you to read it in different ways. In the end, what I found myself doing was kind of going down and then back up. But I kept changing the way I was reading it as well. And it's a great little book. It's really, really interesting because of the different voices. And what it does, of course, is place very basic, everyday human emotions in a much broader, wider global political context. And I think that's what makes it such an interesting book. Diary of a Bad Year, J.M. Coates.